Manchester United, the world's most famous football club. Manchester United, a club which grew from the efforts of a group of railway workers in the late 1800s to become the giant of British football. The rich history of Manchester United is well known. How the club survived financial disaster, the devastation of wartime bombing, and the tragedy of an air crash which ripped apart a brilliant team. The stories of United's glories are legendary. Those players of the past, from Meredith and Roberts to Carey, Rowley and Pearson, through the babes of Munich, Edwards, Coleman and Byrne, to the might of Law and Best and Charlton, the days of the men in charge, Mangnall, Busby, Doherty and Atkinson, men who brought success to the club, the stories of sides which dominated at home and abroad, which took the Championship and the FA Cup, sometimes against the odds, of men like Styles, Crerand and Stepney, Buchan, Macari and Coppell, like Hughes and Whiteside and Robson, men who've worn the red of United with pride. The millions who support Manchester United see their team for just 90 minutes in a game which starts with the referee's whistle and ends as their heroes leave the field. But that's where our story starts. We go behind the scenes for the first time to follow the life of the club and discover a Manchester United you may never have seen before, the Manchester United of today. Behind the dressing room door, it's a time to get rid of the afternoon's mud, and in a tradition which stretches back to the early days of the game, the plunge bath provides a warm ending to a cold afternoon. Before they finish off with a shower, the players share a laugh, as well as a bar of soap. The game may be over, but for manager Alex Ferguson, the work goes on. Within minutes of the final whistle, he becomes the voice of his club and must face the media to answer their questions. They want his version of the game that they've just witnessed. Today's games are covered not only by the newspapers, but by British and continental television. And the club even has its own video system, which records every match. Closed-circuit television beams the game into each of the private boxes and throughout the lounge areas at Old Trafford. In all, 150 sets show the game while it's going on. During the game, supporters at home can follow the action on local radio, and those further afield through United's phone-in service. Star treatment for the Reds. As soon as the game ends, it's treatment of another kind in the medical room, with the physio staff keeping injury problems down to a minimum. Then it's off down the corridor. With old scores settled, and as supporters drift away from the stadium, players from both sides socialise, sharing a drink with their friends and families in the Players' Lounge below Old Trafford's main grandstand. While out on the pitch, another of United's teams has already stepped into action. The playing surface needs constant attention, and even as the echo of the last cheer dies away, the ground staff repair its wounds. For the opposition, there's the drive home. For United's players, the week is over. The hours of training and preparation have been put to the test, and now there's a brief chance to relax before the build-up to another game starts. Work goes on at Old Trafford over the weekend, and the preparations are just as thorough for a youth team game as they would be for a First Division match. And for Alex Ferguson and his right-hand man Archie Knox, Sunday is no day of rest, even though United don't have a game until the following weekend. Alex is the man in charge, and he decides who'll play for United each week. Archie concentrates on training and tactics, and their partnership brought success to Aberdeen. Now their aim is for the same glory at Old Trafford.
He's playing so well in the middle of the park that at the moment, and usually although needing them up front, it's a problem.
Well, we've just got to wait and see how the injuries are before we make any decision about that.
I think we've got to be fair to McQuaid, because as though he's doing us a great turn in the middle of the park, he really is a striker and he wants to play up there with Hughes. That's why we bought Hughes to link up with him. And they've got to start developing the relationship, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, the goal last week, you know, there was indications there that, you know, that they were starting to gel just a bit better than what they have been. Yeah.
But what we'll maybe think about doing is a wee chat with Hughes and McQuaid, because they've got to start thinking about their partnership. And even although McClair's going to be playing in the middle of the park, he's going to have to arrive there eventually, and Hughes has been taking all the burden himself in the last couple of games, playing up on his own.
Well, we'll have to wait and see just exactly how the injuries are, you know. 1 or 2 for yesterday.
Treatment for the injured players is underway at the Cliff training ground, with the club's medical team working a 7-day week throughout the season in a constant battle to beat one of the modern-day game's major problems.
Come on, you must buy us something. We've come in on a Sunday, to be fair.
You would get nothing, Biff.
You're joking. Jimmy will buy us lunch.
No. I'll buy you lunch.
That's nice of us.
I'll plowman's lunch.
Well, anything from you is a bonus, Jim, to be fair.
Does it need anything on it now?
No. Just for the game. Or in the morning, if you're fit to train in the morning.
It's just winning it.
The way I play, I'm going to get a few knocks, but thankfully for myself, I'm able to overcome them pretty quickly. I'm not prepared to change the way I play, because it's got me a great deal of success, and I think it's the right way for me to play for myself and for the team.
That's what it is most.
Yeah. Yeah? Okay. Nothing here?
No.
Just there?
Yeah.
Yes, Jimmy? Yeah, look at Sharpie's got a funny colour.
The players are their own biggest critics, and a missed chance on a Saturday can be the subject of many a leg pull for the rest of the week. Alex and Archie, meanwhile, have the chance to look through the morning papers and see what the back pages have to say about United's Saturday performance.
Somebody's reviews it. It's a different report every game.
Well, I mean, you wonder if you're at the same game. That's when you read some of the reports.
Saw quotes, you see. I mean, you think about the bar was hit 3 times yesterday, and the Big Jim's saved.
I mean, if that save had been on...
United are big news, and it's often an after-match comment which makes the following day's headlines, rather than the story of the game itself.
Consider we're changing the team a lot.
From club spokesman to troubleshooter, Alex Ferguson handles all the problems, and these can range from an important transfer request to something as simple as a lost shirt.
Not part-time.
By the way, boss, there's a strip missing from Saturday's match.
Or maybe someone's got it for an autographs or something. You checked with the players?
Don't let him kid you on. I mean, he'll have sold that strip himself. I mean, he's got enough in that Aladdin's cave it is anyway to...
You better get across here right away and explain yourself.
Monday's wash day, and if the players are to be ready for the next game, so too must the kit. For the laundry staff, that means washing, drying and ironing for all the United teams, from the juniors through to the First Division squad. Kit manager Norman Davis has to make certain that everything's ready for the players, and at times that means everything.
Norman, you got the brew on? Coffee, please, Norman. No sugar.
The laundry girls are faced with a mountain of washing every week, and their work doesn't end with United's match and training gear. They're also on hand to launder the variety of international shirts worn by the United stars.
Well, you knew one up in the packet yesterday.
Just used to
not you.
Beating that shirt usually.
Oh, lovely. Is that my coffee, is it, mate?
Sugar.
Is that instant? Is that an instant cup?
That's a different cup, no.
Hey, that's your cup, don't worry about that. It's got your name on it, mate.
Well, what about the girls? We found something Bruce is good at anyway.
We had that cheese and onion sandwiches that day.
Oh, we had, yeah, breathing all over him, cheese and onion.
The unique collection of photographs on the laundry wall acts as a constant reminder to the players of today of the great stars who came before, and it tells a United story of its own. Preparing for the next game is uppermost in everyone's mind, and with an away fixture coming up, the ticket office deals with enquiries from supporters who want that vital pass to the all-ticket match.
17, OK.
Can I join the membership, please?
Certainly you can. All you need to do is fill this form out here.
Today, supporters can feel very much a part of the club through United's membership scheme, going to games in well-organised and disciplined groups, official members of Manchester United, and proud of it.
Can I help you?
Can I book a coach ticket to Norwich, please?
Yes, certainly. Would you like the executive coach or the luxury coach?
The luxury, please.
OK, can I have your membership card, please?
Yes,
Thanks very much.
For the club's backroom staff, the planning goes on even further in advance.
Each place, possible
block hotel bookings and travel arrangements rest with Secretary Ken Merritt and commercial manager Danny McGregor. And the appeal of United can mean travel to anywhere in the world.
Including the matches in Thailand and Japan.
That's a good distance, Kenneth.
It is. We may have a break in the journey. There's a possibility of a game in Istanbul. We've got to bear that in mind as well. How's the arrangements going for the game at Arsenal? Are they in hand now?
Yes, I spoke to the general manager this morning, finalised the price, and I've told him that the general office will confirm it this afternoon for all details.
Hello, Diane. This is Joy at Manchester United. Can I go through the arrangements with you for our party staying with you on Friday night? We already have gone through the rooms that we require, 8 twins for the players, 6 double rooms, single occupancy, and 6 single rooms. You already have our rooming list. Can you make sure that all the rooms are in a quiet area, please?
United are lucky to have more than one training ground. Planning for the future, they've bought land from Salford University, which is used for much of the routine training. While just over a mile away, the club's main training headquarters is at the Cliff in the Lower Broughton area of Salford. Daily training sessions usually start around 9:30 and go on for 2 hours. This can mean a drive through rush hour traffic for the players who live some distance from the Cliff, or simply a stroll down the road for many of the youngsters on the club's books who are in lodgings close by. There's a constant battle for fitness, and for the injured players, like defender Billy Garton, the road back can be long and lonely. Training is intensive, starting with warm-up and muscle stretching exercises, but once players have reached peak fitness, the daily sessions concentrate on tactics, set-piece play and improving skills.
Training's a very important part, obviously, of our life. We've got to keep fit on the training ground and practice the skills even at our age. But basically it's keeping fit, running about, trying to enjoy yourself still, and that's what training's all about, really.
As the season goes on, it's just back to routine games, you know, 5-a-sides or playing a 5-a-side with the big goals, and players obviously enjoy that all the time, because once you get to that stage, the matches keep you fit.
It's frustrating when you can't go out and train, because I think the way I'm built, I need to train every day to keep my sharpness and my fitness. So obviously when you're missing a few days training, it possibly can affect you. Thankfully I've never had a serious injury, touch wood.
Oh, good shot.
I've always thought that the training here was a lot better than what I had down Torquay. They concentrate a lot more on playing football and knocking the ball about in your first touch. They vary the training a lot more. The players around you make you train a lot better as well. They lift your standard. The coaches and all the rest of the players are always having a laugh now and again, but when it comes down to it, they all know when to take it serious and when to have a joke.
club also has a giant indoor pitch at the Cliff, built in the 60s during the days of Sir Matt Busby, but used today to look to the future as one of the bases of the club's centres of excellence, a scheme set up to encourage youngsters to enjoy soccer and perhaps offer them the first step up a ladder which will take them to a career in the game.
How did you get to United?
First of all, you play for the Sunday sides and your town teams, and you get picked up by a scout, and they invite you down to train here at the Cliff, and you have a number of trials and that, and they ask you if you want to come down for, say, a season and that, and then if you're good enough, they ask you to sign.
What do you think of the School of Excellence?
It's good. Yeah, it's really good.
Has your game improved since you come?
Yeah, it has. A lot.
Yeah. In what way? What part of your game?
Control and everything we do really, we improve on it.
Does Archie take you every week?
Yeah, and Brian.
And Brian Kidd?
Sometimes Alex comes in and has a look.
Do you like him?
Yeah, it's great.
Do you have anything?
The boys plan for the future, but for manager Ferguson and Archie Knox, that future is no further away than the next game, and the blueprint for success has to be ironed out.
We use the ball as well as we can, and even be patient, because the two front players don't really press the ball that well.
Forget the chance where their front two players are not going to put too much pressure on us at the back. They're the type of players that will go back, and they're not the bustling type that are going to put too much pressure. So we should have plenty of the ball at the back. What we've got to make sure is that we get good use of the ball.
Definitely, McClare's got to withdraw himself a wee bit so he's got room to run. But obviously, if you don't get a good early service and good use of the ball, then it's all for nothing anyway.
Eric Harrison and former United hero Nobby Stiles work together in the quest to bring young players to the club.
Well, there's no greater kick for a youth team coach to work with a boy for 2 or 3 years and see him progress into the first team. He easily comes at 13, 14, 15, and to see him go all the way, that's what the job's all about.
Nobby has first-hand experience of the system.
Well, to be back at Manchester United again, it's a dream come true. I supported him as a kid, came through the system and became a player. And as I say, now my job is to work with Brian Kidd along with the 11 to 16-year-olds. Brian's been doing all of Manchester and doing a great job. And my job now is to coordinate the rest of England and Ireland, Scotland or whatever, and to get the kids to come here. The scouts find them, we go out and look, bring them here, and then we coach them, Brian and myself, and hopefully then they pass on to Eric, go through the system and become players. And now that'd be great to have the same thing happening. So what happened to Brian and myself?
Chief Scout Les Kershaw has a network of talent spotters to call upon as United look for players who'll fit into their plans.
Does he get his tackles in? Would you say it'd be worth a further look? Yeah.
Today, Brian Kidd, star of United's European Cup winning side of 1968, has the chance to play a vital part in the future of the club.
I'm the director of the Centre of Excellence. Also, I'm bucket and sponge man for the B team. I also look after everything local, i.e. the scouts that direct and delegate the games they go to. The Centre of Excellence is licensed by the FA, which allows us to bring 4 age groups in, under 11s, under 12s, under 13s and under 14s. We're allowed 1 hour a week to work with the kiddies. Archie Knox is tremendous with the drills he does. We do a lot of versions of what the first team do. Well, a typical night, that can vary from week to week. We always use one theme, be it control and passing, crossing and finishing, heading, control. It would be nice to feel one of the lads make it, because when I was 14 there was nothing like this. And 5 years later on, I played in the first team in the European Cup final, and who knows?
Youngsters outside Greater Manchester become the responsibility of Joe Brown.
I'm the Youth Development Officer, and outside of Greater Manchester I'm expected to recruit talented boys from 12, 13, 14 years old. We have scouts in all areas outside of Greater Manchester. Say a boy is spotted 13 and a half, then at 14 you can sign him on a schoolboy form, which means associates himself with a football club. Between 15 and 16 in his last year at school, he can play for our B team, that's our 4th team. Then, assuming he's progressed well and you offer a trainee playership, he leaves school at 16, then he becomes a junior professional. He plays in the A team, then he graduates to the reserves, and hopefully by 18 or 19 he's made the first team.
Under Alex Ferguson, greater emphasis has been placed on the search for new talent and the development of young players. And although it may be several years before it plays its greatest role in the future of the club, already players are emerging who've come through schemes like YTS. Lee Martin. Mark Robbins. Russell Beardsmore. Tony Gill. David Wilson and Daniel Graham are products of the club's youth policy.
When I came on my first year, as a YTS, there was only 5 of us taken on, and there's 12 taken on now with all your YTS this year. So how are you finding it, all the lads together?
Oh, it's okay, creates a good atmosphere in the dressing rooms, and when we go out on the field training every day, it's good fun.
Lee Sharp became the find of the 1988-89 season after being snapped up from Torquay United, where he too had been on the YTS scheme. As for Giuliano Majorana, he was discovered playing non-league football in Cambridgeshire. United today are returning to a youth policy which first brought success in the days of the Busby Babes. None greater than Bobby Charlton, discovered as a schoolboy and now a director of the club.
Well, what a fantastic stadium. I remember when I first arrived here when I was 15, and there was no stands really of any note other than this side here, and the players had to go round the back for the treatment in a tiny little hut, and all the work was done on this particular ground. We all have training grounds everywhere now, but this track round Old Trafford, this cinder track round Old Trafford, was the only place that we used to do our training. To see it like this now, you know, is about right. It's about right, because I think that's what Samat's plans were initially, that he would have this marvellous stadium which would be the best. He always considered that Manchester United should be the best. Well, as a director, you have to set the policy of the club. You have to make your plans for the future. You have to do your budgets, things that I was never interested in really as a player. Now I have to be interested in the well-being, the facilities, but at the end of the day, the director is to provide the service to the public. Now I'm fortunate enough to be a director of the greatest club, and I'm very proud.
Establishment to produce players, and the scouts are working hard.
The pressures of modern football make it difficult for players to take a complete break from the game. International duty means football all the year round, but even on a rare day off, the players still enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, well, spare time is quite rare during the season because we've got quite a lot of games and we're always training every day. But when we do get a day off, and if it's nice, most of the boys like to have a round of golf. I'd say that would be the main pastime, although people enjoy other things. When I moved from my hometown Airdrie, where I'd lived virtually for 23 years, myself and my wife, it was a bit difficult leaving in the first place. You got your family and friends, but everybody at United when I came down were more than friendly. We were well looked after. We came down here both by the rest of the players who made us feel more than welcome, and the staff who went out of their way to make sure we got into a house as quick as we could, and we settled down relatively easy after that.
When I first joined United, I think the very first day you're there, you're aware of how big a club it is, and it's very awe-inspiring for a young boy just left school, and from my point of view, from a small village in Wales to go to a big club like Manchester, it was quite frightening, really. Well, my decision to come back to Manchester United wasn't really that difficult. Obviously, I'd been at Bayern Munich at that stage, and I'd enjoyed my time there. And I was quite prepared to stay out there for another couple of years because my little boy was only a few months old then, and another couple of years abroad wouldn't have made any difference to his education or whatever. So I was quite prepared to stay out for another few years. In saying that, if another English team had come in for me, I wouldn't have contemplated coming back.
Players are in constant demand, be it from supporters who simply want an autograph or from companies looking for a celebrity. And they even find themselves on call when the club itself is launching a new line in its own boutique.
To be this one.
So you're going to do me a good deal on that one, eh?
I'll do you a good deal on that one.
Right, you are. Okay, well,
Okay.
Okay, fine.
A midweek break also gives the players the chance to get down to Old Trafford themselves. And as well as checking through their mailbox, there's some other important business to attend to.
Your wages there, and your Wimbledon tickets are also attached as well as Coventry. It's Tuesday night now.
Well, why is that, Cal?
It's to do with, I think, Liverpool-Everton. There's your this week's, because I haven't seen you for about a month. There's all the rest of them.
Oh, 4 weeks' wages to go in as well.
That's right. No, right now. No, you've had all that. You're not getting them again. No, they've all gone in. You just get what you're getting this week, yeah.
You sure about that now?
Being a part of Manchester United means always being in the spotlight. And for Chief Executive Martin Edwards and Alex Ferguson, their working day rarely ends. They have to carry the club's banner to functions of every kind, from a dignified civic reception to the fun of a charity garden fete. And it's the same for the rest of the club's senior staff, as Old Trafford hosts yet another event. Tonight, it's a tribute dinner to Jimmy Murphy, the Welshman who picked up the club from the ashes of the Munich air disaster, and who was assistant to Sir Matt Busby for more than 2 decades. And United's most famous manager is here to honour his old pal. Old Trafford houses a giant restaurant complex, and its function rooms are used for everything from a business seminar to a celebrity dinner. From the glamour of Miss Manchester United contest to a gathering of players from the past. An exclusive club with an all-star membership, keeping the name of Manchester United to the forefront. With the restaurants open to the public all week and the club museum closing its doors only on match days, when the demand to visit would far outweigh its capacity, Old Trafford is not only the country's top stadium, but a major tourist attraction.
Yeah, quite interesting. This is brilliant.
The museum holds many priceless treasures, from Newton Heath's first trophy to the glories of 1968. And even for those who follow in the footsteps of the famous, there's a fascination.
That blue top over there got a white mark on it.
Well, that belongs to Brian Kidd when he was in the European Cup win in place of Dennis Law, who was injured.
Yeah.
And the white that you can see on it, that's the white of Wembley. It's never been washed. He doesn't want that washing at all.
This jersey over here, right? 1958. Is that significant?
It is. Yeah, that belongs to a survivor from the air crash, Dennis Violet. And that was the cup final immediately after the Munich air crash.
I'm quite curious to know about the green and yellow jersey here.
The green and yellow jersey,
Yeah.
those are the original colours worn by Newton Heath, who eventually turned into Manchester United. But those are the original colours.
Oh, so that was the very first jersey there?
First jersey that was ever worn by Manchester United.
No one knew it was green and yellow there.
This is Bobby Charlton's window. The plate at the front was given to him by the Football Association when he won his 100th cap. And on there you can see the flag of every nation that he's ever played against. The ball at the back, that was given to him when he was made European Footballer of the Year award. And the 3 caps that you see at the back there, they're 3 World Cup caps, 1962, 1966 and 1970.
Jules, just looking over Derek's shoulder. I think you've done this before.
A visit to the club museum by young reserves Giuliano Majorana and Derek Brazil means an assignment for official photographer Cliff Butler and a picture in the next edition of United Review, the matchday programme co-edited with Ken Ramsden.
Do you like the look of that? Sorry. Okay. That's fine. You want a tint on it?
Between them, they create and design the review, which is published for every first-team home game. No problem when there's plenty of time between fixtures, but when it comes to midweek matches and cup replays, the pressure's on to meet the deadline.
All the youngsters together.
The reserves have a midweek game, so Alex and Archie lay out their plans together with reserve team coach Brian Whitehouse.
Well, I accept that, boss. I mean, the first team's the most important thing, and it'll be good for the youngsters in any case. I guess they'll get a bit of experience from playing in the game.
Well, I know it's been hard on you because I've taken all your major players out of the reserves for our own needs in the first team.
Yeah, I accept that, and they said, well, I would have been
better if we could have had 1 or 2 senior players in the side. It would have helped. They would have obviously helped us. We just have to get on with it, that's all.
I mean, you think of it, Brazil.
The reserve side's an important stepping stone to glory, and for established players recovering from injury, fulfills the need for competitive games to test their fitness. Monitoring the progress of the lower sides is a task allocated to one of the club's directors, whose job it is to represent United on the day of the game and to report back to his colleagues in the boardroom.
We're looking for the next, couple of seasons, maybe 3 seasons.
Board meetings are held each month, but many of the day-to-day decisions are taken by Chief Executive Martin Edwards.
I became involved with Manchester United mainly through my father. He became a director in 1958, in fact the day after the Munich air disaster, which was about the time I started following them on a regular basis. And about the age of 24, 25, my father invited me to join the board in 1970, and I was a director for 10 years before finally being elected as chairman. So I have been following the club fairly thoroughly for the last 30 years now. As far as our stadium is concerned, we've already got plans drawn up to develop the Stretford end, but at a considerable cost. That would involve putting more seats in there and obviously boxes at the back and a cantilever roof. So it all comes down to money, and it's this fine balance again between the team and the stadium. And obviously we've got to get the team right first and make sure that we've got a winning team on the pitch that helps you to fill the stadium. And then we'll look to developing the stadium as well.
Important matters are always discussed by the directors, and subjects on the agenda can range from stadium development to the buying of new players.
We may be available depending on obviously the type of negotiations that you can go into with some of the clubs, but you know how difficult that can be, that i.e. the present market, and when Manchester United come for a player is always a bit on top, but hopefully that, and I think it's important, I think we all realise that we have a team that can challenge. I think the support want the best players, and I think we've always considered that.
A vital step in the rebuilding programme came in the summer of 1989, when £2 million was spent on England midfield star Neil Webb and Michael Phelan, the Norwich City captain.
At the end of the day, I chose Manchester United simply because I wanted to play here in front of a crowd, of 50,000.
If you have anything inside you, you must want to take the chance of playing for Manchester United. That's a great attraction about it. And obviously the challenge, we hope, gets us to the very top, winning that league.
My aims for the future really are just to, at the moment, establish myself in the United side. It's always hard when you move from a club such as Norwich to such the size of this club. So I want to really try and be as consistent as I have been at Norwich, at Manchester United. And then obviously I want to try and enhance my international career. I was fortunate enough to get called into the squad, and I want that to continue, as far as possibly it can go.
New blood for United, but the manager is always on the lookout for top quality players, and approaches from players' agents aren't uncommon.
We'd had an indirect approach though, haven't we?
Yeah, but it's when these indirect approaches via agents, you know not who else they're dealing with. They could be talking to us, they could be talking to Liverpool, they could be talking to Aston Villa, they could be talking to 100 clubs. It's an area in which you sometimes have to get into, but you're never sure about it.
You need to identify the source, really, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, they could be trying to create the market.
Manchester United is a business and competes not only in the field of play but in the tough commercial world of modern-day sport, where sponsorship and advertising generates revenue, negotiating contracts ranging from perimeter advertising in the stadium to shirt sponsorship, and links the club to Europe and the Far East through kit manufacturers Adidas and the club's main sponsors, Japanese electronics giant Sharp. It's decision time for the manager. Alex Ferguson must name his squad. Routine perhaps, but at times difficult, as it means disappointment for some.
Webby and Sharp.
With an away fixture coming up, it means forward planning for Norman Davis.
First thing when the boots come into the boot room after a game, we normally wash the mud off the boots, make sure all the dirt's off, hang the boot up to dry. Next morning, the boots are cleaned. And then the next process after that is preparing for an away match. So you kick off with an empty skip. You put in the stud box, which is very important because you've got various types of studs, because you don't know what type of pitch you're going to. It could be hard, it could be soft. And then I put my toolkit in, which is important because anything can happen at an away game. The stud could get broken in, so you have to saw the old stud out, put a new cleat in, a new stud, and then there's the cleaning material has to go in, just in case one of the players wants to do a final clean on his boots if he's not happy with them.
Norman's the club quartermaster, the man who has to make sure that everything needed for a game is on hand. Easy enough when the game's at Old Trafford, but when the team has to travel, it means that everything must travel too.
Right, these are the training bags for going to away games with. In the training bags goes 2 training tops and 2 sets of training kit. This is Brian Robson's and Steve Bruce's training bag. The reason that the 2 pair go in is because both players room together. And the next item that goes in the training bag are the training boots, which are a moulded sole. These aren't the actual match boots which they wear. They go into a different skip altogether. That bag is now complete for this training session. Basically, this is what you require in the skip for an away match. This is a set of long sleeve shirts. This is a set of short sleeve shirts, which is required because some players wear short sleeve, some wear long sleeve. This is the goalkeeper's kit. Undershirt, which Jim warms up in, and his favourite blue shirt, which he's had for about 10 years, and if I didn't pack that, Jim wouldn't play in the game. These are the shorts, size 7s and size 6s. You have different sizes because different players take different size shorts. These are the match socks, 16 pair. These are the briefs. And these are the warm-up tops. The red one on the top is Jim Leighton's. Warm-up shirts for under the warm-up tops.
The kit's ready and loaded aboard before the players arrive at Old Trafford. Footballs for the training sessions, food for the long trip, gallons of soft drink. Manchester United are on their way. For the players, the Friday of an away game means another coach journey, another night away from home and another hotel. During the season, the team travels at least 10,000 miles in the club's sponsored coach, staying at 25 different hotels. The journeys are made easier in the relaxing atmosphere of the well-equipped coach. It's everything the players need: mobile restaurant, games room, cinema and treatment room. And even when they're on the road, the never-ending battle against injury goes on.
The director of Time Bandits.
Every time we travel away, we always play cards on this table. Most of the lads watch the video, you know, they get a few tapes on and they watch that, but like I say, this table always plays cards. This man McGregor is definitely best at cards. We've also got the worst player on this card table as well, but that's not for me to say. McClare's the one into music. Brian, he brings all the tapes on. It's a bit weird now and again, like, you know, but the lads have a bit of a laugh at some of them.
Well, generally, I just have a personal stereo and I tend to listen to that most of the way down. I look at the scenery out the windows, just relax, really.
It's probably only my second trip on the team coach, so you know, I'm still feeling my way. Mostly just reading newspapers or books, or having a game of cards, really.
We've got a few games which we played, like this one here, golf.
I don't mind travelling, so I quite like it actually. So I just look at the scenery or listen to my stereo, soul or something nice and easy to listen to.
You always share a room with somebody. I'm sharing with Mike Phelan at the moment. They've put 2 new boys together.
Are you ready? Leighton and McClare. Bedboards.
Physio Jim McGregor's the man in charge of away trips. He's responsible for the players' welfare, what they eat, where they sleep, the treatment of injuries, and he's on hand to make sure that everything goes according to plan.
The perfect hotel is somewhere where it's just nice and quiet, away off the sort of beaten track, not beside motorways, airports, in the middle of a big city. Somewhere where it's nice and peaceful. I've been fortunate over my career that with Aberdeen, Manchester United and Scotland, they've always looked after us very well. You go from the sort of glamour of the Glen Eagles Hotel in Scotland to One time with Aberdeen, we were in a place called Stanky in Bulgaria, which lived up to its name, really. It was like camp beds we slept on, and when my roommate went for a shower, and I happened to look around, the bedroom was flooded. There was nothing to stop the water coming in. The night before a game, the team spends it very low-key, and obviously if you've got a snooker room, something like that helps to pass the while away. Get the TV on, just relax and get the feet up. There's nothing really you want to be doing the night before a game. We'll be in our beds for 9 o'clock.
Oh, got lucky with that one.
4 Dover sole. Have them all off the bone.
All off the bone, no
Please.
problem.
1 roast chicken.
When it comes to meals, even then, everything is organised down to the last detail.
Side salads 2. That's it for 7:30.
After a long journey and an afternoon training session, the players sit down to a hearty dinner, washed down with plenty of fruit juice. It's also a time for the staff to relax, but for Alex Ferguson, there's always another question to answer.
Yes, I think we'll try the Sancerre tonight. What do Sancerre?
Attention, please. Telephone call for Mr. Ferguson. Telephone call for Mr. Ferguson.
And he's always in demand.
Yes, 10 o'clock, didn't you say?
On match day morning, it's down to work, and that means training again. But because it's match day, this is kept to a minimum, with a ban on any other exercise. While the team's training, coachloads of supporters are starting their journey to the game, and the team coach makes its first trip to the ground with the kit. Everybody's getting ready for the game.
Hand straight. Hand ease. Hand straight. Hand check.
It's decision time for physio McGregor. That means a fitness test on the injured Steve Bruce.
Hand straight. Hand ease on. Check. Okay. So what's it like now when you actually stop?
I still know there's something there, like, but as I said, like, I don't think it's going to restrict me. At least I hope not.
I think we should end up with some jumping, eh?
The countdown to kick-off time has started.
Yeah, hurry up, Pop, we've only got 10 minutes. Oh, it'll only be 5 minutes, mate. How's that racing going? Well, I think yours is down once more. Your tips are useless. So, missus, know that you've had 10 grand on it.
2.5 hours to go, and the players are ready for their pre-match meal, and the final plan of action is revealed. Professional footballers are part of a team, one unit which represents their club. Gone are the days when players might arrive at an away game dressed in casual clothes and tracksuits. Today, the image of Manchester United is one of smartness and uniformity. The last lap of the journey, and the players of Manchester United are ready for another challenge away from home. For a home game, the build-up is identical. Daily training, a watchful eye kept on emerging players, those under treatment and the planning. The day before the game, the match kit is laid out and the Old Trafford dressing room made ready. But it's a much easier task than for an away game because everything is close at hand and last-minute changes present few problems. One difference for a home game is that the eve of match press conference is held at Old Trafford. An Old Trafford which will transform overnight. Lunchtime on Friday is a sharp contrast to Saturday. It's still mid-morning as the players arrive, in plenty of time for their pre-match meal. The early birds amongst the supporters have the chance to meet their favourites and add to their autograph collection, with United's players always willing to meet their demands. The Old Trafford millions know is beginning to emerge, and even on the wettest days, the stadium is ready for its invasion of eager supporters. The players' pre-match meal is timed so that it's completed 3 hours before the game, and usually consists of light, easily digested food. But there's also an Old Trafford passion for pasta, toast, and plenty of beans. For the guests, there's a glimpse of what goes on behind the scenes, with special tours being part of the sponsorship packages. Another week's planning is over. The players are ready to face their fans, their critics and their opponents. And the Manchester United known to millions will once again step into the spotlight.